The film begins with candid and unpleasant shots of an open heart operation, which beats while doctors pick at the chest with instruments. After a successful procedure, the main character, cardiac surgeon Stephen Murphy, walks down the corridor with anesthesiologist Matthew Williams. They talk about trifles, including wristwatches. After work, the doctor meets a teenager named Martin in a diner. They both have in common the fact that they will move to Gotham one day, where they will begin the career of criminal geniuses, Penguin and Joker, respectively. In the meantime, they're having a peaceful lunch, having an awkward conversation. After lunch, admiring the views of the city on the observation deck, drive. Murphy gives the teenager a gift, an expensive watch. In the evening, over a homemade dinner, a man discusses family affairs with his children, daughter Kim and son Bob, as well as his wife Anna, who also once visited Gotham, being the girlfriend of Bruce Wayne himself. Before going to bed, Stephen performs marital duty with elements of professional fetishism. His wife pretends to be completely under anesthesia. In the morning at work, the hero meets Martin, a teenager, despite the request not to appear in the hospital, came to thank the doctor for the gift. They are noticed by an anesthesiologist. He has exactly the same watch as a teenager. When the young man leaves, Stephen admits that he is a classmate of his daughter who dreams of becoming a cardiac surgeon, and the hero took patronage over him to introduce him to the profession. The next day, the doctor walks with Martin. From their conversation it is clear that the guy's father died. The man invites him to dinner to introduce him to his family. When a teenager comes with gifts for all family members and gets acquainted with them, it is clear that he cannot be a classmate of his daughter, since he does not know her. After dinner, the owners offer the boy to stay the night, but he does not want to leave his mother alone. Before going to bed, the spouse asks Stephen how he knows the guy. It turns out that his father, before he died in the accident, was a patient of the doctor. As a return of gratitude, Martin invites the doctor to dinner at his home. After the meal, the guy offers the guest to stay to watch a movie, but in the midst of watching it, he goes to bed, leaving the doctor alone with his mother. By the will of fate, she also once celebrated in Gotham under the Batgirl mask. Taking advantage of the fact that they are alone, the widow tries to seduce an imposing man, but he prefers to be faithful to his wife and gets out of harm's way. In the morning, Martin comes to the hospital for an appointment with the hero. He complains of chest pains and worries that this is a hereditary heart disease, the same as his father, who, as it turns out, died not in an accident, but during surgery. While the teenager is being tested on tests, he asks the doctor what he thinks about his mother, but Stephen does not like this topic. After this incident, drive. Murphy begins to avoid communicating with Martin and stops answering his calls. During the barbecue, a colleague confesses to Stephen that he saw a teenager near his car. Apparently, he wanted to meet with the doctor. Later, the daughter tells the hero that Martin met her after school and gave her a ride on a motorcycle. The hero does not like that his daughter communicates with him, but he does not forbid it. Instead, he calls Martin, but Martin, standing in front of the doctor's house on a motorcycle, does not pick up the phone. The next morning, Bob, the hero's son, discovers that he is paralyzed. He cannot move his legs and get up. His parents take him to the hospital, where the boy is urgently examined, but no abnormalities or violations are detected. Having found out nothing, doctors tend to psychosomatic reaction to stress, for example, an exam, and let the boy go home. However, before even reaching the exit, he falls in the lobby, unable to control his legs. Bob is returned to the ward and decides to stay overnight. In the morning, when the mother visits her son, Martin is already in the ward. He also came to check on Bob. Leaving Anna alone with the child, the teenager goes up to the cafeteria to talk to Dr. Murphy. Here the guy says that he must restore balance and take revenge on the surgeon for the death of his father. Stephen has to kill one of his family members. Otherwise, they will all die. First their legs will be taken away, then they will refuse to eat, then their eyes will bleed, after which death will occur. To avoid this, the doctor must decide who he will kill in revenge for Martin's father. The man does not take his words seriously and tells the guards to escort the persistent visitor out. However, in Bob's room, it turns out that the boy refuses to eat. The nervous father tries to force a donut into his mouth. While the parents are sitting in the hospital with their son, their daughter spends time with Martin. Having inflamed him with a tremulous and pure first love, the girl undresses in front of the guy. However, the teenager prefers to leave her alone and leave. After a series of tests, doctors cannot find the causes of Bob's condition. The doctor, suspecting a psychosomatic reaction, tries to bring his son into a frank conversation to find out about the reasons, but nothing comes out. But at the same time, his daughter falls in choral singing classes, her legs also failed, as did her brother. Just like the boy, the girl refuses to eat after a while. Unable to find a rational explanation, the doctor drives to Martin's house, where he bangs on the door. The teenager does not come out, but this does not stop the man from threatening him. After that, the hero tells his wife that he suspects the young man of poisoning or some other evil intent. The wife is interested in whether Stephen made mistakes during his father's operation, but he denies everything. They say that surgeons, unlike anesthesiologists, do not kill patients. The next day, Martin calls Kim. His voice on the phone is enough for the girl to get out of bed and go to the window. This convinces her mother that the mysterious influence of a teenager on children actually takes place and can end exactly as he predicted. Anna forbids her daughter to talk to Martin and takes the phone, to which she snaps that her mother will also soon stop feeling her legs. Anna visits Martin at home. The guy says that after the murder of his father, Stephen flirted with his mother. At the same time, doctors are organizing a symposium, but they cannot find medical prerequisites for the condition of children. They are allowed to take them home, subject to care and mandatory feeding through a feeding probe. The next day, Anna meets with her husband's colleague, anesthesiologist Matthew Williams. She is interested in Martin's father's medical record, but the doctor cannot get it. But he can tell you something from memory, in exchange for one session of petting. The doctor says that her husband rolled a couple of glasses before that ill-fated operation, which eventually led to a fatal mistake in the death of the patient. After learning the truth, the woman throws her husband a scandal in the evening. He also breaks down in response, not understanding what he can do to fix the situation. However, in the middle of the night, the man wakes up and leaves the house. In the morning, Stephen wakes up his wife and takes her to the basement. There, bound and beaten, is Martin. The doctor kidnapped a teenager to force him to lift the curse. While Anna makes lemonade for the prisoner, the owner talks to him, calling him a murderer. However, the teenager claims that there is only one killer here, and this is Dr. Stephen Murphy himself. And in order to make amends and continue his life from scratch, he needs to commit another murder. As proof of the strength of intentions, a teenager bites a man by the hand, after which he bites off a piece of skin on his hand, clearly demonstrating the principle of blood for blood. Anna is washing the blood from the trunk of the car when she hears a shot. She runs to the basement, where her husband threatens Martin with a gun. But the teenager reminds that with his death, sooner or later 3 more will die, the children and the doctor's wife. The spouse convinces the husband to lower the weapon. At this time, the children in the room are discussing what is happening. Kim tells Bob that one of them will have to die, and she believes that this someone will be her younger brother. She even asks for permission to take his player after he dies. Frightened by the prospect, the boy crawls across the floor in search of scissors. He cuts his hair, as his father once asked him to impress, after which he tells him that he wants to follow in his footsteps and become a heart surgeon. Such obvious obsequiousness does not go unnoticed, and in the evening a man sobs in the garden, unable to hide his emotions and unable to make a choice. The next day, the doctor goes to school, where he is interested in the progress of the children. Thus, he wants to compare which of the children is more worthy to live, but he does not get a clear answer. At this time, Anna takes the children down to the basement to talk to Martin, to whom she treats wounds. The woman kneels down in front of the teenager and kisses his bloody feet, hoping to beg for forgiveness. Later at night, when the husband ignored his favorite fetish with the complete lack of will of his wife, she lies down next to him and says that it is necessary to kill one of the children, they can always have another child. Kim crawls down to Martin's basement in the middle of the night, where she offers him to run away together, if he cures her paralysis. The guy refuses. The doctor, waking up, notices that his daughter is missing. He goes down to the basement, but the girl is not there either. In a panic, the man goes outside, where he finds his daughter crawling away on the sidewalk. He brings her home to treat her scratched feet. In the process, the girl asks to kill her in order to save her mother and brother. But, probably, teenage maximalism multiplied by rejected love speaks in her. In the morning, Anna confesses to her husband that she let Martin go. If they can't do anything to save the children, then there's no reason to keep him captive. A day later, Bob begins to bleed eyes, the third of the predicted symptoms, the forerunner of imminent death. My sister calls my parents, and they understand that it's time to make a decision. To carry out the prescribed procedure, the doctor binds the children and the spouse, seats them in the living room and puts bags on their heads. Pulling a cap over his eyes, The doctor picks up a gun and spins around his own axis in order to lose orientation and randomly stop in front of someone from a family member. In the process, he shoots, but the first shot goes into the milk and the second. But the third round of the perverted Russian roulette turns out to be effective. The bullet hits Bob in the chest. Lifting his cap, the doctor watches as blood floods his son's t-shirt. In the final scene, Martin, with a battered but gradually healing face, walks into the diner where he once had lunch with Dr. Murphy. The doctor himself, along with his wife and daughter, are already sitting here. The teenager passes by while they studiously avoid meeting his eyes, and sits down at the counter. Sipping a soda, the young man meets Kim's gaze before her parents take her away. As they leave, the Murphy family takes turns looking around at the teenager who almost destroyed their family in the name of justice. And that's where the movie ends.